start. So, well, thank you so much for joining in. I know it's quite early in the morning and that too on Sunday, but that should be fine, right? Because it's the last leg of your patent agent examination, which you are now running for. And once it is done, then you can take a sigh of relief. So it is always good to, initiate these discussions right in the morning itself, because when our mind is all fresh. First of all, let me congratulate all of you who have received the invitation to appear for the Viva. Others should not lose heart at all, because I know for myself and my students how much we prepared, for this examination. And you all have done really great. You've been part of so many classes. It's just that this year's examination has been little tough, right? It required lot of brainstorming. It required lot of thinking, and it was certainly a very, very intelligent paper, I must say. Whoever at the patent office made it, uh, they made it really a very good paper. I think this paper was largely cracked. Paper one and paper two was largely cracked by those who are either practicing in the field already or who have really undergone extensive research and a lot of study with regard to each and every provision of the Patent Act. I'm sure that from 2022 onwards, this patent agent examination is going to have a lot of more value and credibility attached to it, especially because the exam papers are no more easy and it requires you to prepare like any other competitive examination. So at least I'm happy from that front. And I'm happy that you all did a lot of labor and you've done your best, given your best shot. For this year, exam result has not been really encouraging, because if you look at the total number of people who appeared for the exam, which is close to 3,000, to be precise, 3,086 candidates who appeared for paper one and 3,012 candidates who appeared for paper two. It's only 714 candidates who have received the invitation to be part of the Viva. So the pass rate has been just 22-23%. And like I said, just because the paper pattern is getting changed, it's becoming more tough to crack it now. But anyway, now that we are back to this session, and the session is more about preparing for Viva, which is now scheduled in just few days from now. And I thought maybe I just share some of these strategies with you all, totally basis on how I appeared for Viva when I was sitting for the exam many years ago, and also basis the experience of my past year students who very recently appeared for the Viva. So I'm happy to share some of those strategies. I am not going to take a lot of time uh, in sorry, this slide doesn't seem to be going ahead. Okay. So I'm not going to be taking a lot of time of yours because these are just simple 5 top strategies that you all must be aware of. First of all, let's start with the good news that Viva is completely unbiased here, right? Uh, it's primarily because none of the examiners who will be interviewing you, they don't know about your marks at all. They don't know how much marks you gain in paper one and in paper two. It's only you as a student who is aware of your own marks, primarily because you've got that carbon copy of the OMR sheets uh, that you were given on at the time of examination for paper one, and later on there was a answer key which was released by the Indian Patent Office, and one could easily match as to how much marks you would have received in paper one. For paper two, as a candidate, you also do not know how many marks you may have got, because it's more of a subjective paper, and you'll have to really wait for some time to receive the total set of marks that you receive. But as far as your examiners are concerned, they don't know about your marks. So each and every one of you is at a same footing, just like anybody else. who may have received more or less marks. And Viva is an outcome of the average of those 2 to 3 examiners. So let's say you're going for this interview now for this Viva. There would be hopefully between 2 to 3 examiners will be sitting and who will be talking to you. Um, Two of those would primarily be from the patent office uh, side. They could be either the examiners or the joint controllers or deputy controllers, but they are going to be very, very senior officials who have been in the patent office since a long time, and they are the ones who understand this subject matter quite in deep. And there would be one, hopefully, an examiner from the outside industry side. It could be a subject matter expert, it could be a teacher or a professor who is teaching in the domain of IP since many, many years. It could be a person from the industry who is practicing. It could be a person from the law firm who would be sitting as an examiner for all of you. Um, so this is going to be the whole dynamics of the moment you go there and you are invited inside with your name. Um, you might have to wait for some time because there are so many students who have to appear for this Viva, and you must carry water bottles with you or whatever is the refreshment stuff. But good news is that this is a totally unbiased Viva. You should not feel that, oh, I may have got, less marks in paper one as against my friend who has got more than 80 to 90%, and her chances of cracking the Viva are much more than me. That's not correct. Uh, a person who may have got the marks between the range of 50 to 60, let's say in paper one, has an equal chance to get equal amount or good marks in Viva as the person who may have received very high marks in paper one and may be expecting very high marks in paper two as well. So just go with that completely unbiased view for yourself also, with a clear assumption that the interviewers or the examiners who are going to interview you are also totally unbiased, because they definitely don't know about your marks. Anyway, moving ahead, there are some basics that goes for each one of you. Okay? Which are the basic hygiene checks for you all. For example, dress up very well. Dressing up very well really means that you need to be in good formal dress. It shouldn't be that you're just going in bathroom slippers. Certainly not, right? It's a formal interview. They are going to judge you not just basis your knowledge of the Patent Act, but overall personality of yours as to how do you talk, how do you articulate your answers, how much deep knowledge do you have with respect to a certain provision, and more importantly, how is your passion in this? What is your passion in this field? Sometimes people may just take patent agent examination for the just for just for cracking it and just for putting it into the resume. There is no real passion at the back. Somebody may have told them, oh, there is one patent agent exam. You must go ahead, just take it. You may never know in future it might help you. So you must be very clear in your thoughts um, as to why you have taken the exam, etc. But as far as the basics are concerned, your dress should be you should be decked up very well. uh, I have been receiving some question as to what we should be actually wearing. For females, a sari is good option. It could also be suit, a formal Indian attire suit. For females, it could be even pant shirt, the proper dress code that you have, Western dress code. Avoid any short dresses. I mean, it's always good to feel, also good for yourself. You should not be engaged in just taking care of your dress, etc. It should be very comfortable for all of you. For male candidates, also it has to be a very formal dress. It could be pant shirt or suit. No need to wear tie. You don't have to really look very formal, because it's not an interview for a job. It's an interview with the examiners who are just going to judge you on a variety of aspects of yours. Like I said, your knowledge, your articulation, your passion about this patent system, and other things. You should always be bubbling with energy. Sometimes it happens that you may have traveled from far to just take this Viva. and the moment you reach the Viva room, you look very dull or you look very tired, um, and you don't feel very good. You don't, your appearance is such that you look very dull in that sense. So avoid that to happen with you. Book for your tickets maybe for a day before. Take proper rest, sleep overnight properly without any stress, and then go ahead for the Viva. Because, why do I say this? Because when you sit for a Viva, your aura counts a lot. How you are sitting, how you are behaving, what your gesture is like. It really throws a lot of energy on the other party also, on the other side of the table. So if you go with a good energy, it will create the room very vibrant. Um, Always carry a nice smile. It shouldn't be that the door is open and you are like, you're not even smiling. That should not happen. Because the other person who is sitting has been sitting also for many hours, have been interviewing so many people, and they also want to see people who are bubbling with energy, right? So that's the key basic thing that you all must be aware of. Your outlook should be very positive. I mean, you should not feel nervous. Oh, what will happen? Or who are the persons who are going to interview? It is nothing like that. Okay, because the person who is interviewing you is a human being. He's not an alien who has fallen from some other planet and has just started to talk to you. These are human beings like us. They have totally a vested interest to also help you as much. You have gone through paper one, paper two. Immense amount of preparation is required to do so. So certainly the examiner also wants you to be in the class of registered patent agents, because certainly for India, there is a lot of skilled manpower required now, who are considered to be very good patent agents. So no one wants to fail you unless certainly a student has no idea about any of the provisions of the Patent Act. So go with that positive outlook that other party, the examiner, is also interested in passing you in the Viva. Certainly your knowledge counts and other things count. And one thing which is extremely, extremely important is how you prepare your brief introduction. Um, Examiners don't know anything about you. All they know is that you have cracked paper one and paper two, and you're sitting for the interview, but they have no background knowledge about you. And there is always an interest to know who you are, where you are coming from, and what led you to take this course. So preparing that brief background is extremely important here. And we'll take in one of the slides, in one of the strategy slides, as to how to prepare for that background also, and why it is so important. And therefore, in very big red marking, I have written, it's extremely important part of the basics that you must go with. Also, I don't think a lot of people will tell you this last point, which is to carry relevant documents and papers with you. Now, what do I mean by relevant documents or papers? It's not your resume, right? These are the relevant documents and papers which kind of testify who you actually are. For example, if you have been a researcher and you are a scientist, or you are a professor, or you are a student who has been working in the R&D space, or you may be a person who has drafted many patent applications. Uh, but examiners don't know as to what you are saying is actually true or not. So it's always good to carry some testimonies with you. For example, let's say that you are a scientist or an R&D professional and you've got lots of patents in your name. Carry sample paper of one or two granted patents or patent applications which carry your name as an inventor. If let's say you're a professor and you've been working with students in the university on certain very important invention, and if you have a prototype, a small prototype, it's good to carry with you, right? Because when you're explaining your invention or the area in which you are working, then it is always good to show that this is what you invented, or this is what you've done so far, or these are my patents granted or patent applications that are that are carrying inventions on which you work. Um, Also, for example, let's say that some of you are patent practitioners, lawyers who have been working in the law firms or as in-house company people, in the IP division. and you are learning patent drafting, and you have supported your in-house patent agents, um, and you're working in drafting space already, but not yet able to sign or do anything because you are not yet a patent registered patent agent. So you could show some testimony that you've worked on these inventions uh, for variety of sectors, and that may help, because when you carry some documents, it's always good, and it also shows your seriousness. So if you have any such documents, it is always good to carry with you. Uh, and also you need to test the waters. I mean, it shouldn't be you are sitting and you just show your papers. You have to create a flow. You have to let the interview flow in a particular direction. And then as the moment or as the time comes, then you say that, okay, let's say some examiner has asked you, okay, what are the areas in which you've been inventing or you've been working, or which sector are you from? And then it is always good to showcase that, yes, sir, these are the documents that shows that I'm working in the space of genetic engineering or biotechnology, or these are the inventions that are important on which you are working, etc., etc. This could be any sort of papers, right? Um, okay. Now there are certain strategies that I wanted to discuss with you. For the first one is that you check your own marks. You should have a clarity on how many marks do you want to pull to be able to crack this exam fully well. The total marks required are 150, as we all know, and we've discussed in our classes also. Calculate your marks for paper one. You would have calculated that marks anyway by now. Basis the carbon sheet, a carbon copy of your OMR and your, the key answer sets that were published by the IPO. So you know very well your paper one marks already, even though these have not yet been published. And then assume your marks in paper two as only 50 for now. Okay. Keep it very at a lesser level, so that you go for the Viva with the mindset that you want to pull the maximum marks. And this changes your whole perception. Now, suppose you may have in paper one, you may have 80 marks, and in paper two, assume that you have 50 marks. So that is total of 130, which means that for Viva, you just need to pull 20 marks. Okay. That does not mean that you don't prepare for Viva as much. You have to prepare it as thoroughly. But yes, at least you will get an indication, or at least that idea of how many marks do you want to get or pull from the Viva. Imagine that there is a person who has got 60 marks in paper one, and in paper two, we are assuming that, let's say, it's only 50 marks because it's a subjective paper. We don't know how many marks you have got. 50 is an assured marks, because just because you got 50 and you cracked paper two, that is why you are being invited for this Viva, besides having cleared paper one. So imagine that you, let's say you have 60 marks, or between 60 to 70 marks, or between 50 to 60 marks, whatever, in paper one, and you assume that it is 50 marks in paper two. So that makes a total of 110 marks that you already have. So the balance amount of numbers that you want is 40 from the Viva, which is little tougher than, just getting 20 marks in Viva. But I wouldn't say that it is not doable to receive 40 marks, because in past we have seen that people have got 45 marks, 47 marks, or 38 marks, very good marks in Viva. This was the last year exam results. Extremely good marks in Viva. So this strategy is very important. You must have calculated your marks already. Do not try to convey in the interview as to how many marks you received, because it's blindfolded Viva, right? The examiners don't know about your marks. Don't even try to convince or influence examiner with respect to sharing your marks. Sir, I got 89 marks or 90 marks in paper one. No, you don't have to say any of it. You just have to behave very genuine. You have to genuinely go over there and take Viva in isolation as another third leg of patent agent examination that you need to crack. Okay. Unless the examiner asks you that, okay, tell me, what have you calculated your marks in paper one? How many you have got? then it is good to convey that. But proactively from your side, do not say that. I would recommend don't say that. Because already the papers that you carry or the brief background that you provide is itself a very good testimony, or it is itself a very good indicator to create that kind of a confidence in the minds of the examiner that you are a candidate of an aspiring patent agent, and you could be a good candidate in future. If you once become a patent agent, you'll only help the society. So this is one strategy that I thought you must definitely be aware of. The other strategy, like I mentioned, is you need to prepare a very beautiful, short, crisp background about yourself. Your background cannot be a thesis. I mean, certainly you will be asked to introduce yourself. Examiners will ask you, okay, please introduce yourself. That doesn't mean that you will continue to speak for like ever. Even 1 minute of background or introduction is too huge. It's like 60 seconds. And imagine the examiners have to interview so many people. And there are ideally between 10 to 15 minutes that every candidate should be getting, right? In that 10 to 15 minutes, if your background is too huge, then certainly you will lose the opportunity to then interact more with the examiners. So keep it very short, of not more than 30 seconds. Your background should not include who your father is, who your mother is, who your husband is, how many kids you have, what have you been doing at the family level. No, nothing of that sort. It's your brief introduction as to who you are, which means your name, your experience, your educational background, your area of research. Let's say you're working in the pharma domain or mechanical, or in the domain of computer science, artificial intelligence, or machine learning, a space of IoT, whatever your sectoral uh, function has been. If you're not serving anywhere, or if you're not having a experience, you're a student, then say that you are a student of XYZ university, and this is your area of course, and that you've been in whichever year. It certainly has to be final year, right? Um, and then any kind of R&D as a student you may have been working in. So that should be your background. Only 30 seconds. Okay. Your educational background is extremely important, because if you are a PhD, or you are a person who has done a post graduation, or your total number of experience, these kind of play a good role in again testifying your good credibility to come out as an emerging patent agent who is good enough to serve the society, right? Because then you can showcase that you've got enough skills and the background to be counted and confided upon as a good patent agent. If you are a teacher, let's say, you could say that, and you could say, for since how many years you've been teaching, in which area have you been teaching, and if there are any research areas in which you have supported PhD students, that also helps. Okay, because patent agent examination is meant for those who have got science, technical, and engineering background. And if it is attached or synergized with some sort of R&D or invention, it is always helpful. But those who are not in the R&D space, and you have been just supporting in terms of the strategy to the other people who are in the R&D, say that also. Now, for pharma people, let's say this background that you prepare, this actually will create a flow for your interview ahead. So, for example, you have given a brief background as a pharmaceutical person or a person who is working in the healthcare sector. So, certainly the examiner will then try to formulate or provide you questions which are relevant to your field. Okay. There are no scripted questions that the examiners ideally have. That's what I assume, right? Because it's a diverse set of students, or this diverse set of candidates who they are going to interview. So there cannot, I assume that there cannot be scripted set of questions. Hmm? It has to be linked with who the person is. Let's say you're a software engineer and you give a brief background about you being a computer science person. Then certainly you might be asked question about Section 3K or any guidelines which are related to computer related inventions. If let's say you are a person who is working in the domain of herbal or Ayurveda, then you might be asked questions related to traditional knowledge or plant varieties, etc. Let's say you give a brief introduction of yourself as an entrepreneur, a person who may have started a startup. Then the questions will come to you in that are relevant to your domain. For example, they might ask you, okay, tell about the section in the Patent Act, which is primarily crafted for the Indian startups, which means your Rule 24C, which gives expedited grants for the Indian startups, or it provides, let's say, uh, expedited grants and the reduced fee structure, which is reduced by 75% for these Indian startups or SMEs or entrepreneurs. So your background is actually going to set the tone for your own interview. Okay. If you want your interview to go in a particular direction, prepare your background in that manner. So highlight in your background or in your introduction those key things on which you might want examiner to ask you questions in which you already have an expertise. And certainly, if let's say you are a pharma person and it might so happen that you are a pharma background person or a healthcare person from a medical device sector, and you are asked a question on Section 3K, that is also okay, right? Don't get in panic that how come I gave my introduction on all related to healthcare and examiner is asking me a question about Section 3K. Even that can happen. So be prepared for that kind of questions as well. Um, because for a patent agent, it is important for a patent agent to know 360-degree view of the Indian Patent Act. Section 3, most importantly, as to what are the inventions which are patentable and which are not. Of course, when you become a patent agent and you start practicing, then a pharma person would not certainly and cannot certainly handle the inventions that are from the software sector. A software patent agent who has got educational background in software area cannot certainly handle pharma inventions and start drafting those patent applications. It is definitely not going to happen. But as far as interview is concerned, as far as your general knowledge is concerned, you must be aware of the entire provisions of the Patent Act. Okay. And that is the reason why in the patent agent examination, you are not asked questions specific to your own sector. You get questions from all variety of provisions of the Patent Act, correct? So go with that mindset, prepare your background deeply well. And deeply well means you should take out time for a whole day, prepare for it, and also mock at home. Maybe you tell to your father, you tell to your mother, or your husband, whoever could be, your friend, and introduce yourself to them as if the other hearing person is the exam. That will create your clear flow when you are sitting in the actual interview. You won't fumble. You won't go just here and there. You'll introduce yourself properly in certain order. Now let's go ahead and let me just quicken it up because I thought I'll be able to complete it in 25 to 30 minutes. Okay, you should have a relevant general knowledge. Like you have seen in paper 2, there was a question about SIP scheme. This was not part of Patent Act. There were some students or some people in various groups who were saying, is it not out of syllabus question? Well, nothing is out of syllabus, right? To the best of my understanding. As a patent agent, you are a wholesome personality. You are a total package, right, for the country. You should not only be aware of your, the patent law, the Patent Act, but also the other connected items, the peripheral items surrounding it. Because the policies, the guidelines, the schemes, various awards, various other initiatives of government, they all play a very important role in setting up a right ecosystem in the country. And as a patent agent, you don't have to be a bookworm. You need to have a general knowledge about what is happening in the other areas also, which are connected to your patenting in India. So read up on a lot of government initiatives before you go for an interview. You might be asked about questions, as to what are the different government initiatives that you are hearing. What has Government of India done in the space of IP to grow more domestic filings, let's say in past 10 years or in past 5 years? Read more about what CPAM is, read more about what is NIPAM, because that also gives you a lot of confidence in your own Indian bureaucracy or in your own Indian IP office, that how much effort that the people are making in growing a country to a certain level, and what is your role as a patent agent to synergize with them, to complement their activities, right? So you must yourself in any way know or have a know-how of what is happening from the government side in the space of IP. So that is about the general knowledge, but also you must revise all the set of sections and rules and the relevant forms of the Patent Act, different schedule, fees, because it has been now a few days you took the exam and there was whole lot to memorize, uh, revise that once again, brush it up. It's not that you need to be aware of all sections and rules for the Viva. You might forget it even at the time when you are responding. That is absolutely fine. You don't have to panic because you've cleared paper one and paper two is itself an indicator of the fact that you knew about provisions. It might so happen that for certain provisions you might forget if you are asked about that question. But do read it up, do try to memorize all the forms, all those 30 forms, what are these meant for, uh, the relevant sections, the important sections, and also some of the important judgments. Because some of the students, you know, students will be in different, let's say, areas getting interviewed by so many different examiners. Each examiner has got different expertise and they might come up with different set of questions. They might still, somebody may ask you about the recent judgments, the others may not even receive that question. That is also happening, or that may also happen, right? So read about those recent judgments. I've already created a YouTube video on that, and I think many of you were part of it. Those who were not, go ahead and check it out. It has list of important judgments which were most recent, and some which were precedents, which had precedents from in order to create that jurisprudence in our country. So do read up on that. And the same YouTube video, which is also there in the video description of this session, also talks about the most relevant and important sections and rules, and also the important concepts of the patent law that you should be aware of, like Bular provision is there, research use exemption, what is it about, and then something about compulsory license, or pre and post grant opposition, post dating. Those are the important concepts that you must re-go through. Hmm? Next is speak thoughtfully. Okay, so let's say a question has come to you. You just have to give a key message. Like I said, the key messages are not at the mercy of the length of time. Your key message can be short, crisp, and can be delivered in lesser time also. So speak thoughtfully. You may take some time to respond. It's not that the question has come to you and you need to, even before the examiner has completed the question, you start to speak. You don't have to show your knowledge at that time. You have to be calm and patient. Let the examiner complete his question and then you start to speak. Take your time to speak, but not as much a time as well. So it has to be customized. Try to supplement your answers with relevant rules, sections, fees, or forms. For example, there could be a question about licensing of patents. Then you must talk about Section 69, where you record your licensing rights, assignment rights, and other details. There could also be a question, let's say, on the on the assignment because of some merger and acquisition that may have happened, then you should be, and so assignment would change. The applicant would have changed by then. And then in that case, you must respond with relevant section and rule. For example, relevant section would be section 20, where you could have your inventor listed in the patent certificate who contributed maximum to the invention, or change of the applicant in case of assignment of rights. There could be question about commercialization of patents. Then you should be able to talk about section 146 and form 27, which is about working statement. There could also be some question about, okay, mention about different ways how an applicant or a third party can support patent office towards the appropriate grant of patents. Then your section 25.1, section 25.2 for pre and post grant opposition, or section 8, which is about supplementing information about how the patent is faring well or application is faring well in other parts of the countries of the world. That so those sections become relevant. So try to supplement your answers with relevant sections from. No need to mention fee. That's not very important, because anyway, as a patent agent, you'll always have a statute book with you, and you can always refer back to the fee, and fee keeps changing. Concentrate more on learning sections and fee and the form and the relevant rule. But don't get bothered if you forget some rule or section at the time of the interview while giving the answer. The last strategy from my side is that you prepare for this. Let's say one question that you must have or you must prepare is introduce yourself. And the second question you must prepare for yourself is, why do you want to become a patent agent? Hmm? And your answers may vary depending upon who you are. Your answers could be, let's say, I'm working in a law firm and I'm interested in drafting a lot of patents and signing the documents, and I want to be a registered patent agent. Or I'm a student in the field of research and I want to know what my rights are. Because I've worked with a lot of outside legal counsels, my university works with them, and I want to be in complete nuance of or know-how of how the Indian patenting system works, so that while I continue to work with outside counsels, but I myself should know what rights I will have once I become, once a patent is granted to me. Your answers could also be to this particular question as to, I want to grow professionally in the field of patents or intellectual property, because it may be that you are neither a researcher nor an academic professor, not even a person who is having experience in this field, not even a person in litigation or prosecution, nowhere. You may just be a student. You may just be any industry professional having no connect with, let's say, patent. But yes, you've heard about innovation, you've heard about patent system in our country, you've heard about what government is doing in this space, and your interest is growing in this field. And therefore, you thought of appearing for the patent agent examination. That could also be your answer. You could also talk about yourself as being a faculty who is training a lot of PhD students, and that university is filing a lot of patents, and you as a professor needs to know about how patent system works. Or it could be that you are an inventor, and as an inventor, you should know um, when to file a patent, how to file a patent. Although an inventor may not directly do all of that, they may need help of some law firms or lawyers, but it is always good to know your own rights. So the answer, these are just the listed, indicative set of answers. Answers should come from your gut, from your heart, right? It should come from your own experience. So say it like that. And the last point that I wanted to mention, some of the Viva Voce questions that you may receive are certainly, number one, like I said, introduce yourself. Next question could be, why do you wish to become a patent agent, which we just discussed again. And the third question would then be completely basis on the background or the tone that you have set for yourself in your brief introduction. For example, if you have stated that you are inventing in a certain area, then people may ask you, examiner may ask you, okay, what your invention is all about. What are the sections that are applicable to your invention? Or the questions might be related to explain working statement, or explain why patenting is important in India. Why do we have a patent system? What is the importance of it for the innovators? There could be questions such as, Do you have any suggestions for any changes in the Patent Act? That can also come, right? Because a patent agent has not to be just working on the existing laws, but also should be visionary enough to support government in policy shaping in the coming times. So you should have that nuance as well in your mind. The questions might be, okay, tell me what is expedited system of examination? Could there be a early examination for PCT application? Um, or what is Indian startup? What do they have to do with the Indian patenting system? What are the relevant rules around it? There could be question about compulsory license. So that there could be variety of question, like I said, totally based on how you have introduced yourself. Well, with this, I think I should end. We've already taken a lot of time. And join the Telegram group. I know many of you are already part of it, but it's always good to be part of a community, which is where we are all discussing about patent agent examination, the relevant information. So once you become part of it, I think you will uh, get to the group. And I think with this, I would like to close this and wish you all the very best for the PIVA. And at 11:30, we will have our mock interviews for the students who registered with me. So I look forward to having you at 11:30 in the class. Or I think it's 11, we'll just check. Bye, everyone.